The Sagat family's judgment ceremony involves revealing the children's mana purity and mana attributes to determine who is worthy of the title of the family of strongest sword masters and aura users. The first boy approaches the joint stone sword, and the sword glows with green aura, indicating his wind attribute and higher than average mana purity. The next girl approaches, and the sword releases a blue aura, even better than before, leaving everyone overjoyed that the family has gained another prodigy. Finally, it's Rain's turn. The patriarch tells her to proceed. As soon as Rain touches the sword, she releases only a faint white aura, considered weakest. The others burst into laughter, but the patriarch silences them and quickly concludes the ceremony. When the hall is empty and only patriarch and his servant remain, the joint sword suddenly glows again, this time with the blazing golden fire aura, the same power possessed by the founder of the Sagat family, which can melt anything. Patriarch is stunned and wonders how powerful Rain can become.
But even Patriarch doesn't know who Ryan is. He's the reborn strongest assassin who was betrayed by his own master. One cold night, the Shadow Group's best assassin meets his master, Darius Robert. The master has learned that Ryan has broken free from mind control and demands to know how he did it. House Robert turns kidnapped children into emotionless assassins, and Ryan accidentally broke the mind shackle during a mission. When Ryan asks how Darius knew, Darius explains that every assassin has two shackles, the mind shackle and the other. Just then, Ryan experiences a sharp pain in his chest, and Darius reveals the second shackle. A rage worm implanted inside Assassin can devour hearts at the master's command. The worm begins to devour the heart, and Ryan vows that he won't die like a dog and will at least leave a mark on Darius. He picks himself up and charges, only to be instantly decapitated. Darius is still in shock as Ryan manages to wound him. He orders the other assassins to dispose of the body and leaves. Ryan's fading consciousness is filled with rage as he remembers the life Darius took from him. With his last breath, he prays to a god or demon for a chance at revenge. Just then, the trinket on his neck begins to glitter, and a strange screen displays, revealing that he has been... A being named Vrat has chosen, but before Vrat can descend, Ryan's body dies and the process is interrupted. Sometime later, a young woman is playing with her child, whom she calls Sunshine. The child is Ryan, reincarnated into Sylvia's family. Ryan retains his memories as an assassin. Initially, he thinks it's a dream, but gradually he accepts that this is a new life from which he can't wake up. In playful chatter, Sylvia tells him that the lord of the house hasn't yet come to give him a proper name, and that she doesn't know that Ryan understands everything she says. Ryan wonders why the Lord hasn't come, even though it's been 100 days since his birth. It's clear to him that he was born into a rich and prestigious family, which is an advantage for his revenge. He's never left the building, so he doesn't know his status within the family. Furthermore, he hasn't been able to master the Flamelings technique, so revenge against Darius is still far away. Just then, the maid Helen arrives to inform him that the Lord has returned. Sylvia tries to get ready, but it's too late, as the Lord enters through the main door. The man enters the room with a strong aura, and Ryan immediately recognizes him. Sylvia calls him father, meaning he's his grandfather. Looking at his features, Ryan confirms that he's none other than Glenn Seacard, the apex of the Northern Lord of Destruction continent. Ryan understands that he was born into the continent's most powerful family. Glenn names him Ryan, the same name from his previous life, and tells him to live as if he doesn't exist. That night, Ryan finally finds himself alone and cultivates Flamelings.
Normal techniques involve inhaling mana and accumulating it in a core. However, flame links form circular links around the heart, increasing stamina, focus, and mana affinity, while remaining hidden from transcendent beings. All he needs to do is increase his strength and focus and learn the Sigard Swords technique to ensure his revenge plan is foolproof. But there's a problem. His new body's mana circuits are filled with destructive chill. Nearly 9 circuits are blocked, and he could die soon. He must break them with flame links. He cultivates for a long time and finally collapses while fighting sleep. Luckily, he falls asleep as Lord Glan enters the room and releases his aura on the sleeping child. The next morning, Rain resumes baby duties, crawling a little more each day to impress Mother. He finds acting like an infant too painful and would prefer to endure the destructive chill. A short while later, Sylvia receives a special visitor, a family friend whom Rain recognizes, the ragtime saint, whose divine power and medical knowledge are beyond all comprehension, is considered the continent's greatest healer. He says he heard Sylvia had a baby, so he came to check on her. He looks at the baby and says he looks just like Sylvia and is the complete opposite of his grumpy grandpa. When he hears Glan name the baby Rain, which means shadow, he is upset and wonders why Glan did that. Their informal tone confirms they are old friends. After a health check, Saint tells Sylvia that the baby has the purse of bitter frost. His mana circuits are blocked by the chill, and his chances of becoming a swordsman are slim. Without treatment, he won't live long. Sylvia, shocked, refuses, but Saint ignores, saying he'll bring medicine. The maid arrives and tells him Lord is calling him. Saint leaves the room. Rain, relieved that he's finally found the name of the condition, he begins to wonder how to handle it. Just then, a tear rolls down his face. He looks up. Sylvia is crying and says this can't be true. She says she won't let him die. For the first time, Rain feels a strange pang in his heart. He realizes he feels bad because he doesn't want to see Sylvia cry. He extends his hand, wipes her tear, and for the first time says, "Mama." This proves to be Sylvia's final threat, and she, ignoring the maid's protests, enters the room where Lord and Saint are talking. Her abrupt entry enrages Lord, but Sylvia yields and pleads for her son Ryan's life. Her plea continues for a while, but Lord Glan coldly states that it's pointless to save a boy who can't become a warrior and will be of no use to the family. When Sylvia reminds him that the boy is his grandson, Glan sticks to his earlier statement and orders the guards to drag him away. The guards drag him away, and Saint calls the Lord a stubborn fool. Saint later reveals that Glan summoned him to the palace because he noticed the same problem in the child. Glan doesn't respond and tells him to continue his report. Saint explains that the boy's mana circuits are blocked, and progressing in this condition would be dangerous. Glan's aura had repelled some of the chill, which would temporarily cure him, but it won't increase his chances of becoming a warrior.
Then, in a strange twist, Glen says that it doesn't matter as long as the child survives. Saint taunts him that he's concealing his love for his grandson by maintaining a harsh exterior. When Saint asks why he chose a name like Shadow, Glen explains that years ago, the name used to mean the exact opposite. A few days later, Sylvia gives Ryan the elixir that Saint left behind. Ryan is delighted, as the fire-based elixir will help him overcome the chill of his mana circuits. Years pass, and Ryan turns 5. A system notification informs him that he has completed his second flame link, increasing his soul rank, mana affinity, focus, and stamina. This news brings him immense joy, and he suspects his rapid progress is due to system messages. The system, visible only to him and appearing shortly after birth, allowed him to check his status. The problem is that his stamina and curse haven't improved much, and he's only been able to survive thanks to the elixir, Sylvia, and the care of his maid, Helene. He realizes that he's only 5 years old and has time. He was the greatest assassin in his past life, and now, with the help of the flame cultivation technique, he can overcome his weaknesses, especially once he masters the C-card swordsmanship style. He understands that the only weapon to defeat a transcendent like Eros is patience. After a while, Sylvia lets him change his clothes, as they have a special trip to the destination. Discernment. To explain the ceremony, it's important to understand that the continent's balance forces are divided between 6 lords and 5 demons. Rain was born into one of those 6. Lords maintain positive influence, while demons threaten peace. The ceremony's purpose is to discern jewels from stones. Today is House Sighard's ceremony. Upon arriving, people look at Sylvia and her son with contempt and speak ill of their health. They even call Sylvia a failure. Some protest that it's unfair to allow a child of a failure to attend the ceremony. But Sylvia ignores them and moves on. Rain is affected by these comments, but Sylvia tells them to just focus on her. A short while later, the Lord arrives, and this is the first time Rain has seen him in 5 years. As the Lord takes a seat, a joint sword called the Sword of Discernment appears in the center of the chamber. It falls, and the ceremony is ordered to begin. This sword can reveal any child's full mana potential. The first child called is Warren Sighard. The ceremony is performed on young children because after the age of 4, the skull's futures are closed, and the mana potential is sealed. Warren touches the sword, and the sword emits high-quality light from every part, which people expect from Lord Karen's son. Then comes Runan Slan, daughter of the vassal house Slan. Purity of mana if the amount of light and the element is also visible. Runan also produces bright results and is called a prodigy. Rain understands that the crowd is crazy about the results, but he realizes that his circuits being tilted will lead to a poor result, even though he has completed the second flame link. When Rain is called, many look at him with disdain. Approaching the sword, Rain thinks it would be foolish to have high expectations, just knowing the element is enough.
As soon as he touches the sword, a strange fire erupts from it, incapacitating him. Suddenly, he sees visions, terrifying monsters and a young warrior among them. He sees monsters towering over the warrior. Then the warrior lifts the fire-covered sword and strikes it to the ground, and the resulting explosion destroys the entire area. Then the vision ends, and the element is displayed on the sword. A bright light emerges, but only half of it, and people mock him. Glenn watches silently. Sylvia assures him of good health and takes him back to his seat. People laugh, wondering how a descendant of a house guard could have such a low result. They also mock Sylvia for simply giving his son golden hair and crimson eyes. Glenn orders everyone to remain silent and declares the ceremony over. After the crowd leaves, Glenn and his personal butler remain in the room with the Sword of Discernment. Glenn thinks Rein's condition can't be helped.
Just then, bright fire erupts from the sword, and Glenn watches closely. The fire reaches a peak surrounding the sword, something no one saw at the ceremony. Glenn, stunned, notices that the light is golden, like the sun. Records show such a light only appeared at the founding ceremony of House Secret, where the transcendental aura was so fierce that it could melt even the flames of the demon rail. Such gold-colored mana had appeared only once in history, so its appearance now is shocking. Glenn stares at the blinding light for a while and realizes Ren is responsible, but he doesn't understand why. The system window shows Ren's stats 7 years after the discernment ceremony. The curse is still present. Stamina is low, his athletic abilities are weak, and his mana affinity is also full. However, he has gained some water resistance, which reduces stiffness in his limbs. He seems very close to his third flame link, and he is now 12 years old. Sometime later, his mother reminds him that today is the next discernment ceremony. Due to his past experience, Ren is not excited, fearing he will have to endure the same ordeal again. Shortly after arriving, the ceremony for the new batch is over. Ren feels that this year's ceremony was unusually fast. Before the ceremony ends, the Lord calls him and asks why he hasn't responded to the basic training summons, which were sent a month ago. Ren was unaware of basic training, so his mother responds on his behalf. She received the summons but didn't tell Ryan. She pleads with the Lord that Ryan isn't like other children and won't be able to endure the training due to the frost in his body. Lord Glenn is unmoved by her pleas. He declares that there are no exceptions or right of refuge on Seagart land. According to Glenn, those who cannot walk must crawl to train. That's the Seagart way. Sylvia, shocked, says she can't accept such conditions. Glenn asks if she intends to leave home again like she did before. He says, follow the rules or leave. The crowd, excited, began to recount their past departures. Ren doesn't like his mother being mocked. Murmuring tells him they dislike Sylvia because she left home. She destroyed her core and mana circuits, even though she had learned Seagart soldiersmanship and lost her aura. She did all this to marry her lover, who died while Ryan was still pregnant. She then had no choice but to return home. The family looked down on her because she had abandoned her place in the main family. Ren clearly knows he can't let his mother down by siding with the crowd. Suddenly, despite his mother's protests, he steps forward and speaks to the Lord, saying he will join the training next month. His request is opposed by Daenerys Seagart, head of the Palace of Elders, who says he didn't know anything beforehand, and that basic training isn't easy, despite his name. Ren insists, saying he will train to prove himself worthy of the Seagart name. This is not acceptable to the Lord, as the Seagart name carries a heavy responsibility. Glenn releases his aura, enough to crush his bones, and blood spurts from his mouth. Ran realizes that this pressure is even heavier than his previous master, Darude. In pain, he clenches his fists and tries to endure it, but ultimately collapses. Sylvia and the maid Helen pick him up. Daenerys begs the Lord to take back his spiritual force, saying that Ryan is a child and doesn't understand the weight of his words. Glenn ignores anyone and demands that he be allowed to speak. Sylvia continues pleading, saying her son isn't ready for training and that he should get his aura back. Breaking free from his mother's grip, Ren reflects on his past life, living in darkness, hidden in shadows. Now he wants to make this life better, especially to restore Sylvia's lost place. He approaches Lord and confesses that he doesn't know the name Seagart because he was raised in the annex, not the main house. He declares that he will participate in the training and understand what this place is like. His responsibility awakens to Sylvia, Helen, and the people who help in the annex. Lord, interested, asks if he wants to determine the value of the Seagart name based on training. Ren says yes, that's the only way. Glenn says he will order the instructor to prepare the best so Ryan doesn't get disappointed. Lord's aura falls onto the Gen, and he falls to the ground. The only thing on his mind is that with assassin experience and flame rings combined, he will be able to stand here. Even as he falls, he swears that the pebble he mocked will become the strongest stone.
Meanwhile, at the training center, Karun Seaguard speaks with the head of the Palace of Warriors Guards. He received news that Ryan is ill and inconsolable. The guard confirms that several annex medics overheard the conversation between the saint and the lord and are convinced Ryan's health is critical. Karun saw Ryan unstable at the ceremony, but he cannot find an answer as to how he was able to withstand the lord's aura. He thinks that Sylvia's potential was unique, which explains his son's abilities. Finally, Karun orders the guards to send someone to the annex to monitor everything. Meanwhile, Ryan overworks as usual, and Sylvia reminds him that she warned him not to do so.
Sometime later, at the 5th Seaguard training ground, Lord Glenn visits instructor Lamar, whom he catches pretending to be asleep. Glenn picks him up and taunts him, saying he hasn't matured in 50 years. Being a lair elf, he doesn't age, so he hasn't really changed. Lund suspects Glenn has come to talk about his grandson and bluntly tells him that Sylvia just arrived and he won't compromise on his training because Glenn has given him absolute control. Glenn says he hasn't come to plead, but to insist on maintaining or raising standards so that the weak can be weeded out. Lund thinks Glenn is his grandson is looking for an indirect way to show affection to. Glenn laughs and says that if he weren't an old friend, he would have decapitated him. Rain remains curious about him. Meanwhile, Rain completes his bird flame link, which increases his body and soul rank, constitution and dexterity, mana affinity, focus, stamina, and water resistance by 3 stars. One benefit is that a strand of the Curse of Frost has disappeared. This message brings him joy, and it's clear that he was able to achieve this through hard work, but not overwork, with the help of his mother. The magical status window is also helping to accelerate his growth. But all this is nothing compared to the intense training that Seaguard will undergo. This 3-star flame link is merely the foundation on which he will build his house. His plan is to demonstrate extraordinary accomplishments, to silence the mocking voices forever, and then to complete his revenge by eliminating Doris Robert. Thinking about this, his mother comes to talk to him at night as he's leaving for basic training the next day. She asks if he really has to go, fearing that Rain will push himself despite the pain and get seriously injured during training. His mother suggests waiting just 1 more year, but Rain says he can't do that. His reason is that he can't bear to see the people in the main and branch families looking down on his mother and treating those in the annex with pity. And he believes that if he performs well in training, he can end all this. Hearing this, Sylvia becomes emotional and surprised that he's so considerate of her situation. She tells him that she met her father by chance on a mission, but living with him was difficult because he was just an ordinary knight. To find his love, she had to destroy her core and mana circuits and leave her family. Ryan had an older sister, Sia. While living a peaceful life with her husband, a group called the Cadre of Eden recognizes Sylvia and suddenly attacks her. She was pregnant and her husband was not powerful enough, so they couldn't do anything. She watched her family die before her eyes before a secret team sent by her father could rescue her. The team couldn't reach quickly due to the distance, and when they arrived, her husband and daughter were dead. Living alone was unsafe, so she had to return home, becoming the Seaguard household's scapegoat. Upon returning, she had no excuse for her father. Hearing her story, Ryan understands that she abandoned her family's responsibilities for her own happiness and later returned to save his own life. This is why the Seaguards hate her. But for Ryan, she is the woman who gave him life and showed him love for the first time. In 2 lifetimes, this is his first mother. Therefore, he can't behave the way others do. Suddenly, he asks if Sylvia regrets leaving home. Sylvia says no. As a Seaguard, she always felt invisible, and only after leaving home did she feel like a person again. She loved that time and is happy to have Ryan. Her only regret is that she wasn't able to be a good enough mother to him. Ryan assures her that she doesn't have to worry anymore. Suddenly, Sylvia starts crying loudly, and Ryan calms her down, wondering why she's crying. After calming her down, Ryan returns to his room to inspect the Flame Link's condition, as the next day is basic training. While inspecting, a strange phantom creature appears in his room. It says the time has finally come, and reveals that it has arrived at Bowling Rage. Its name is Night, the second ruler of the demon world, who has come to fulfill its vengeance. It outlines the terms and conditions under which Ryan must sacrifice his body and soul. But to his shock, it's summoned by a child. Ryan is also surprised, and the two begin to question each other. Wrath refuses to believe a child could generate so much rage. However, after further investigation, he changes his mind. He tells Ryan to submit his soul so that his revenge can be executed.
Ryan refuses his help, saying he will carry out his revenge with his own 2 hands because he wants to take Darius's head. Wrath changes his tone and says that this is not a negotiation. The demon world has made the decision, and he will take what he wants. In frenzy, the creature surrounds him with cold fire and envelops his body. It attempts to force its way in. The impact causes Ryan's body and mind to freeze. The spirit encourages him, promising to destroy all his enemies, even God himself. Ryan is able to withstand the chill due to his increased water resistance. But the being isn't just attacking with cold, it's also enhancing his inner rage. The spirit taunts him, promising to crush his enemies' heads and consume their flesh. He must surrender his body.
Ryan fears that Sylvia or Meds won't be safe if he does. Finally, the being becomes impatient and declares that they were trying to save his body, but now they will simply destroy him. The pressure becomes so intense that Ryan feels he will shatter. Before he does, he gets the idea to use Flame Link to lessen the burden, just as water resistance did against chill. He activates his Fire Link, and a bright light bursts from his body, shocking Spirit. He tells Rage how a mere human child can withstand their pressure. Ryan reiterates that he will avenge himself and will not give his body to any specter. Wrath becomes furious when he hears himself called Spectre and asks how he can insult the ruler of the demon world. Ryan mocks that he is not that great because he is unable to defeat him. Knight realizes that his full strength has not returned. Just then, a message appears on the screen about a new skill being unlocked. System Windows fill Wrath with rage, who claims that the system is his power. Ryan asks what connection the messages and status windows have to him, and Spirit explains that he created the system. Ryan wants to find out further why the system was created, but Wrath does not explain. When Ryan asks if the system was created to accelerate growth, Knight's expression changes, and Ryan understands that the answer is yes. The Flameling's effects are now stronger than in their previous lives. That was his purpose. When Wrath demands that he surrender his body or return the system, Ryan throws a mana-packed punch, but it doesn't work. Ryan realizes that controlling him is futile, so he wraps himself around Ryan's hand and transforms into a bracelet. He does this because it's only been a while since the seal was broken, and his true power hasn't returned. His plan is to wait until his power returns and then take his place. Ryan considers removing the bracelet, but realizes that this could cause the system to disappear or harm the spirit, Sylvia, or Helen. Therefore, he prefers to keep it close to keep him under control. Ryan asks why he made such a flowery bracelet, and Wrath insists that it's his choice. The next day, Sylvia is tense and Helen consoles her. Ryan comes out ready to leave, and both women have gloom on their faces. Helen advises him not to overexert himself, and he promises. Sylvia remains sad for a while. She then tells Ryan to give his best. After she leaves, Sylvia seeks assurance from Helen that her child will be fine. Helen says that Ryan's health has improved significantly, and he may be able to complete the training. This brings some relief to Sylvia, who had cried inside for a long time, extracting a promise from him that he wouldn't overwork or hurt himself. A little while later, several children gather at the entrance to the 5th training ground and chat among themselves. Meanwhile, Ryan stands alone contemplating that the training ground is not only occupied by members of the main and branch families, but also by vassal families and those outsiders who have received recommendations. Some boys gossip about Ryan's weak limbs and jokingly ask why he doesn't run away from training. They also comment on his flowery bracelet, which enrages Wrath, who showers them with abuse, but they are fortunate to be unable to see him. Hearing their conversation, Ryan approaches them and asks why they don't tell him to his face instead of crying behind his back. The boys are shocked and defensive, asking how a branch child who lives in the annex could talk to them like that, even though they themselves are branch children. When Ryan points out that only those who consider themselves superior to others speak such words, the boys become even more enraged, and one grabs him by the collar and threatens to remind him of his place. A mad glint appears in Ryan's eyes, and he cracks his fingers. But then a child from the main family stops them. It's Warren Sigurd, the same prodigy who first Ryan was tested before the discernment ceremony. Warren scolds the boys, asking if they want to embarrass the family in front of outsiders. The boys immediately apologize. Warren then approaches Ryan and asks if he still doesn't know his place. He proudly declares that Ryan is just dust that he can sweep away at will, and that he should keep his head down. Otherwise, he'll be expelled from the annex. To Warren, Ryan is here because he took advantage of the opportunity in Discernment Hall, not because of any skill. He calls him a failure waiting to be removed. As he leaves, he says that if he doesn't intend to participate in the training, he should get away, because there's no guarantee of passing. Before Ryan can leave, Ryan taunts him that he should have added more enthusiasm to his rant. He says that being a member of the main family doesn't make him important, because he has no rank or authority. He jokes that he only has one option: complain to your father. Ryan turns red and can only say, "How dare you?" Just then, Instructor Lemaire bursts through the door.
He is amazed that the children have started fighting. Ryan, who didn't know who the instructor would be, recognizes him as Sword of Light, who had retired due to core damage. Lemaire separates the boys and tells them to fight after the admission ceremony.
Meanwhile, Lyre, who is watching from behind a tree, enjoys Ada and feels as if he is watching young Glenn. This strengthens his suspicion that Ryan has unknown potential hidden among the great potentials. Upon arriving home, the system notifies him that by pleasing Rot, he has earned a new condition, increasing his dexterity by 1, as always. This drives Rot mad that he gets points just for pleasing her, and he calls the system nonsense. When Ryan reminds him that he created the system, Ran says that it's new to him because his system has never been stolen. When Ryan ignores the verbal abuse, Ran makes him an offer. He can earn extra points in his stats by absorbing her rage, whether he wins or loses. The condition is that he must achieve first rank in the training exam, just like Lamar said. Winning will earn him a random attribute, the rank of which will be adjusted according to his weak body. Losing will earn him a small amount of Knight's Rage, which will be small now, but could become uncontrollable in the future, as the spirit terms up front. Ryan understands that he's not lying. The reward far outweighs the risk. This is a poisoned apple, but his past experience gives him confidence to win. He accepts the offer. Knight grins at the acceptance, thinking that his plan to slowly wear down Ryan's body has begun. Sometime later, the children go through another exercise. They are exhausted from running and are now doing horse stands. Lamar motivates them, saying this is the foundation of all school and everyone must do it. He tells them to maintain their stance until he stops, and he himself goes to sleep to give them incentive not to quit. He reminds them that they will take the final test, not him. Some students complain that the exercises are tiring and want to learn swordsmanship. After the exercises are over, Warren invites some boys to practice sword techniques, as basic training could damage their swordsmanship. Rot asks Ryan to join, but Ryan believes that learning swordsmanship is useless at his current level. Stamina and strength are needed, not sword training, especially for him who has the curse of bitter frost. He needs to focus on the basics. Ryan is working out in the gym, and Runan Sloan of Vassal House stalks him. She is shocked that he has gained so much weight in just a few days, despite being told he was sick. She doesn't understand how Ryan is gaining so much so quickly, and thinks he might be using different stances. Curiosity piques her interest, but she approaches him without saying anything. Her gaze unsettles Ryan. After watching for a while, she sits on another weight and starts lifting weights herself. Seeing this, Ryan becomes alarmed and leaves her alone. He goes to other weights, but Runan continues to follow him. She remembers catching one of Ryan's scents earlier, which made her feel lighter and allowed her to lift weights beyond normal limits. Ryan asks if she has anything to say, but Runan flatly says no. She silently decides to follow Ryan everywhere. A while later, Warren and the boys arrive at the gym and are irritated to see Runan hanging out with the boy who was expelled from the main family. The pitiful basic training is pointless, and he believes Ryan is doing this because of his weak physique and will never reach their superior quality. He rallies the boys to practice resources for the upcoming test, confident that the exam will reveal who is right, him or Ryan. Sometime later, a boy named Dorian, a respectful man, asks Ryan if he can train with him because he's noticed Runan following him. Dorian isn't a Sigurd, but rather from the outside family. Ryan reluctantly agrees. Excited, Dorian offers him a biscuit. Hesitant, Ryan is about to return it when he sees Runan staring at him with hungry eyes. His innocent, dog-like expression scares Ryan, so he relents and gives it to him. Gradually, the three began working out together. They even run close together during races, and a bond begins to form. After some time, flower time arrives. Peace Snake comes to call the pack, but the training continues. 6 months have passed since basic training, and Ryan is running every day as if his life depends on it. This time, he easily outruns everyone except Runan and Warren. Time passes and exam day arrives. Parents and guardians from various places come to watch their children perform. They gather in the large arena, and Lamar addresses them. Sylvia, Helen, and Lord Karoon are also seen sitting in the crowd. Meanwhile, Rot reminds Ryan of their wager. He's sure Ryan will accept the race in defeat, as he couldn't beat Runan and Warren in training. Ryan brushes it off, saying that exams are a different game, and you never know what might happen. A little while later, Runan and Ryan find Dorian huddled in a corner, terrified of the exam results. The bond between Ryan and Runan is evident when she randomly offers him a biscuit. Observing the people around him, Ryan thinks he only attracts strange people. Meanwhile, Helen and Sylvia are happy that their son has been able to proudly endure 6 months of training and make some friends. Just then, the head of house's arrival is announced, and everyone is astonished, as it's his first time attending the event.
Lumiere also expresses surprise at the Lord's arrival, and Glenn replies that this exam decides the house's future, so it's essential for the Lord to be there. As soon as Lord sits down, Lamar decides to start the training selection exam, but first he has to explain what the exam is about, since he hasn't told anyone before. Lamara releases a storm and reveals that the exam involves penetrating his spiritual force. He explains that fighters cannot escape spiritual force, and that it is a test of their spirit's strength. Nearby, the Guardians protest that the children don't even know how to use aura properly, yet they are being forced to face spiritual force. Tired of their complaints, Lamara explains that spiritual force is not a manifestation of aura, but a rank of the soul, built through a warrior's experiences and accomplishments. A true warrior doesn't need aura. Protests escalate, but Lord Glenn interrupts, stating that Lamara isn't wrong. Warriors, whether possessing aura or not, develop their own unique spiritual force based on their lives. Even those without aura can become formidable through intense training. His words create silence. Lamara declares that if there are no more complaints, the exam should begin.
Runin is called first. Lair tells her that the spiritual force she will face can be overcome if she has given her all in training. He unleashes a tremendous force upon her, causing her to tremble. She is warned that using aura will result in immediate disqualification. She only has mental strength. Despite the opposing force, Runin struggles and reaches Lamer's hand. She almost falls. Lair then catches her and praises her efforts. Dorian is called next, drenched in sweat from fear. He too has to do the same, but he feels he lacks mental strength. Lair reminds him that Warren relies on aura when things get tough, and that using aura here will fail. Warren cannot fail. He remembers the coldness of his father, who harshly rebuked his older brother. He feels that if he fails, his father will abandon him too. He presses forward with all his might, and finally grabs Lamer's legs. Nearby, Lair advises him that he's only 12 years old and should stop pretending to be mature, and instead train appropriately. The last name called is Ryan Siegert. As he steps forward, a powerful spiritual force falls upon him, nearly knocking him off balance. However, the force's intensity is far greater than the other children's, worrying Sylvia and Helen. Even Lord Glenn is shocked. Ryan wonders to himself, is this really his test? Lair is doing this because he sees more potential in Ryan than Runin and Warren. He tells him to go all out. What matters here is not physical form, but the spirit's experience. Ryan has the advantage. He possesses not only the soul of Roa Siegert, but also the experience of the assassin Ryan. Amazingly, he cuts through the spiritual force and catches the Lord's attention. Unlike the others, Ryan doesn't falter. He rushes straight at Lamer and pushes him back. The scene is so shocking that the crowd erupts in song. Lamar and Lord Glenn are stunned. Ryan smiles and asks, "Did I pass?" The others can't believe this sick boy was able to do so much. Karun is also shocked. Lamar remains stunned for a while, wondering how a sick child who can't use his auras could endure so much. Finally, he asks, "What are you?" Ryan calmly replies, "My name is Ryan, the same child you've been watching for 6 months." Lair protests that he used spiritual force beyond Ryan's capacity to watch him struggle. Therefore, it shouldn't have been possible for him to penetrate him. Ryan's simple shrug at this only further irritates him. Soon, the time comes for Lair to announce the exam results and the name of the promised top trainee. Warren and his father become tense when Lair announces Ryan's name as the top trainee. Sylvia and Helen burst in tears with joy, their Ryan coming in first. People discuss these surprising results. Warren then loudly declares that he cannot accept these results because they are rigged. Lair is shocked by this accusation, and Warren then arrogantly declares that he is superior to Ryan in strength, constitution, and potential. When he speculates that Ryan must have used a trick or spell, some people begin to support him, asking how Ryan could have done this without the curse of Bitterfrost and aura. The protest grows so intense that even Lemaire's straightforwardness is questioned. Eventually, Warren proposes that the matter be settled through direct combat. Lemaire observes that Warren is doing all this because he wants the top-rank title, and leaves the decision to Lord Glenn. The Lord asks Ryan if he is willing to spar to prove the results are true. Ryan says he won't because the results have already been announced and he won't benefit. To settle the score, the Lord proposes that they spar for the top trainee title, with Ryan receiving a bronze medal if he wins. This catches Ryan's attention, as the gold, silver, and bronze medals awarded by House Sacred offer valuable rewards. This offer convinces him. The rules are set. Weapons and auras are prohibited for 1 round. Only physical body use will be permitted. The sparring begins, and Warren throws a rapid punch, which Ryan dodges near the nose. Surprised, Warren launches a kick, which Ryan blocks. Warren proudly declares his technique, the charging tiger technique, taught to him by his father, and he relentlessly attacks Ryan. The crowd believes Ryan won't be able to retaliate. Warren's pain is that a boy from a weak branch family is challenging him. The only thing on his mind is the thought that his father is watching, and he must prove it.
Ryan continues to block or dodge because he has been studying Warren's attacks and flow and finally understands it. When Ryan suddenly halts, Ryan realizes he has given up. Warren moves in for the final strike, but Ryan matches the same punch with his own. Warren's arts pamps back and Ryan delivers a crushing punch to his stomach, knocking him out of breath and spit. This turn of events shocks the crowd and Warren's father. Lord Glenn, too, is shocked by how Ryan countered the charging tiger fist. Ryan asks how he learned the technique. Ryan casually replies, "You showed me, and I just imitated." The crowd murmurs, "How did this brat learn so quickly?" Warren still hasn't recovered, and Lair realizes Ryan is the real deal. He wonders how Ryan nullified the charging tiger with a reverse spin.
Just by watching, he sees the talent Sagard was looking for, the one who could stand at the pinnacle of the continent. A moment later, Ryan's victory is declared, as the results are revealed. Sylvia, unable to contain herself, embraces Ryan with tears. Runan's father also embraces him. Warren, on the other hand, only finds his butler. His father turns his back, as he feared most. That night, a heavy silence descends on Warren's house. Finally, his father asks if he remembers how he told him not to achieve top rank and lose to anyone. He asks if Warren wants to embarrass him by underperforming Lorne Bratt, the son of a failure. He reminds him that he's already lost one opportunity, and his only chance for redemption is to win the title in his final graduation exam. He leaves, and Warren realizes he can't waste his last chance to live the life of a main family. Anger forces him to blame Ryan. He can't understand how he's fallen behind despite all his hard work. Wandering angrily, he reaches the gym, which is empty. Near the lockers, he peeks into Ryan's locker and is shocked. There are about 10 pairs of shoes there, and he's worn them all out in 6 months. He remembers how often he'd see Ryan training hard in the gym, while he himself was busy swinging his sword or relaxing. Warren realizes Ryan was showing true Sigmar attitude, not him, and quietly puts everything back and leaves. A while later, Wrath, who lost the wager, curses and says he's never seen anyone like Ryan in his entire life. He asks who Ryan is, but gets no answer. Just then, the screen notifies that Ryan has won the wager. All his stats are doubled, and he's earned the Knight attribute. Awareness of the Snowflower. Wrath explains that it's a godly attribute, but useless for this particular body. This skill increases the range of senses, but only by 8% with a 1 star. Wrath proudly explains that thanks to the system, he could have increased his senses tenfold. Ryan finds the name strange and mocks the night test, which enrages Spirit. A short time later, a message comes from the main building that the Lord has summoned Ryan. This makes Sylvia tense, but the butler says not to worry. No, Master Sagard himself will be presenting him with the bronze medal. Upon arriving in the throne room, Lord Glenn seems dissatisfied with the situation, but he keeps his word and gives the medallion. Ryan is told that he can return it and demand a suitable reward. Ryan immediately asks what he must do to return his mother to her original place. The Lord is shocked. When Glenn clarifies if he wants his mother back in the main family, Ryan says yes. Glenn explains that it's possible if he brings an achievement that the entire house acknowledges. But this is easier said than done. Receiving recognition in the Sagard house is like touching the moon. Especially for such an experienced child, the challenge excites Ryan. He thanks Glenn. The bronze medallion returns and starts to leave. The Lord stops him, saying he could have gotten the answer directly from his medallion. And his reward still hasn't been claimed. Ryan suddenly remembers what he needs most right now. So he asks for a cultivation technique. But he's told the instructors will teach him in basic training. Our boy says he needs a higher aura cultivation technique than basic training, because he needs a technique worthy of the bronze medallion. The shadow cultivation technique from his previous life isn't enough, and he needs a more powerful technique to bring back Sylvia and take down Darius. Lord Glenn snaps his fingers, and suddenly a mysterious library opens, revealing towering hundreds of books. Ryan is stunned. Lord Glenn explains that this is only a small section of segmented bookshelves, and all he needs to do is stand in the center and raise his hand to select the book he wants most. Ryan hopes this new technique will be better than the shadow technique. Suddenly, a book falls from the shelf and lands in his hands. It's very old and worn, but the book chosen leaves Lord Glenn and his butler in shock. The Lord wonders how Ryan got hold of that book. Flames emerge from the book, enveloping Ryan, and he wonders what connection this has to the cultivation technique. As Ryan opens the book, an explosive burst of light erupts. Even the Lord is astonished by the fire. Suddenly, a vision appears before Ryan, in which a guard reports to Lord Glenn that Sylvia has left the house. The Lord coldly declares that he doesn't care. The family's growth comes first. The vision explains that the Lord considered emotions a luxury last time, and by thinking only of the house's growth, he achieved martial power that surpassed the limits of demons. But he paid the price for it with his own human emotions. Then comes the news that his daughter's family has been killed, and Lord Glen is devastated. At that moment, he regains his emotions, but there's no way to turn back time. He decides that no matter how much the world hates him, he will protect the child this time. Ryan is confused as to what kind of book it is. Suddenly, the book disappears, and its essence fills Ryan's body. The Lord calls out to him and asks what he just did. Ryan simply says he doesn't know, but he remembers the entire contents of the technique. The Lord tests him and asks him the name of the technique, especially since he hasn't read the book. After a moment of hesitation, Rain mentions the Million Flames technique. The screen immediately pops up, revealing that the million flames have been burned into his memory, and he has seen the flames of eternity. Lord Glen confirms that Rain remembers the technique, and explains that it was a worthy reward for the Bronze Melian. He can now leave. As Rain leaves, the butler is astonished, as the technique belonged to the founding lord, and no one in the house's history has been able to obtain or read it. Therefore, he never expected Rain to find this book. The butler worries that if anyone finds out, Lady Sylvia and Rain's lives could be in danger. The Lord assures him that no one knows. Rain understands that the book and its contents have been passed on to him. Lord Glen explains that no one has been able to use this technique, and it would have rotted on the shelf if it weren't for Rain. This makes him feel that times are changing. Rain finds it difficult to understand why the Lord would give him such a valuable secret, beyond gold or silver. This technique is at the level of the legendary Fireling, making it worth learning. But the problem is that Rain can't gather aura. He expected that he wouldn't be able to comprehend it immediately, but it's proving more difficult than that. Wrath notices that things aren't going as he intended. Surprisingly, he advises Rain to try his best, as this is a rare cultivation technique, and if interrupted, the body could become invalid. The Golden Flames technique draws mana from nature and accumulates aura in the core. Therefore, a disturbance at a critical moment could break his core. Ryan warns Wrath not to interfere, but Spirit defies him and openly states that he will intervene at least once. Ryan says that if the body is invalid, it will be useless, but Wrath says that he can repair the body. Wrath sees this as a golden opportunity because a human will not survive. Ryan pretends that he is not afraid, but Wrath says, "Stop acting and tremble with fear, because I don't know when I will attack." For the first time, Ryan sees him as a real enemy. This is unsurprising because Wrath is a demon. The living eater of rage will devastate the body as soon as he gets the chance. Until now, Ryan hadn't noticed because Spirit was behaving calmly, but now he must maintain constant surveillance. Meanwhile, he notices another matter, a maid sneaking out at night. She is a spy for the Judean Lord Karun, and writes reports that nothing much is known about Rayan. He just mutters to himself sometimes. But this time he has something important. The caliber of the cultivation technique the Lord gave Rayan from the Bronze Melian, and the extraordinary mana flow he felt during cultivation. This information is crucial for the Palace of Warriors. But she wonders how long she can keep writing reports for the children. As per her habit, she drops the paper into the river so it can reach the boss. Just then, a knife touches her neck and a cold voice says, "If you move, I'll kill you." Terrified, she asks who the attacker is, but the voice, its killing intent, and its presence paralyzes her.
In her reflection in the water, she sees Rayon's face. Rayon explains that he's been feeling someone's watching him since his return, and asks if she's satisfied with his report. Med is shocked, as she was absolutely sure he left no trace. Now it's clear that Rayon was aware from the beginning. He was just acting. He forces her to open her mouth and stuff something into it, causing her to feel nauseous. He then retrieves her report paper from the river, only to discover it's a special code. After making some guesses and noting her reactions, Rayon deduces that the password is Moonlight, leaving Judeel in shock. Furthermore, when she calls out a name and arrives at Karen Sigurd, a tiny twitch in her face changes, making Rayon understand that she's acting on his orders. Judeel, who has trained for years to become the perfect spy, is stunned to think she's read his expression without a word. Suddenly, she realizes that the intense heat burning through her body isn't a normal poison, but a rage worm. In a flashback, Lord Karen orders her to go to the annex and gather all the information she can about Sylvia and Rayon, for a substantial reward. In the present, Judil asks if she fed him a rage worm. Rayon is shocked that she knows about it. Despite her efforts, she can't vomit it out. The rage worm's job is to track the host's location and emotions and inflict a painful death on the feeder's orders. Rayon also figures out that she's a spy for the Palace of Warriors, planted there since the discernment ceremony 7 months ago. Horror spreads across Judil's face. This mission should have been as simple as monitoring a simple child. She had hoped to keep an eye on a Sikh child and his powerless mother, but she had no idea that a monster resided within the annex. Fearing, she immediately offers to alter the report and falsify everything. But Rayon rejects this, fearing that the truth will eventually reach Karen, proving his incompetence. He coldly declares, "From now on, you'll be a double agent. You'll only give Karen the information he can get and conceal any secrets. In return, you'll give Rayon all the critical information about Karen." Judil immediately agrees. The wry smile on Rayon's face suggests they are joking over a cup of tea. He says, "Please share some important information the next time they meet," and leaves. Wrath is stunned that Rayon was able to summon such a powerful entity, even though he was with her all the time. The truth is, Rayon never gave her the rage worm. She finds the idea disgusting. He only gave her a poison that causes temporary, intense pain. When asked about mind reading, Rayon says, "Information is obtained through different methods. I have my own methods." Surprised, Wrath replies, "You're not human, you're a monster." Time passes, and Rayon focuses on building his aura, but he fails to achieve his goal before the deadline. Returning to the training grounds, he discovers that only 45 students passed. This proves that Lemire will indeed cut trainees into quarters. Runan meets Rayon, and the two stare at each other for a while, causing Wrath to freak out. In a flashback, in the slot's main house, Runan's mother asks if Rayon helped her with her training. She replies yes. Then her mother teaches her that thanking someone for help is necessary. In the present, Runan suddenly thanks Rayon. This quiet curry catches Rayon off guard. Wrath is also perplexed by her sudden politeness. Dorian then enters and complains that he almost died during his temporary trainee days, and now, after becoming a formal trainee, he's been watching nightmares for 6 months to see how hard the training will be. He praises Rayon's results as better than Warren's, but he doesn't realize Warren is standing behind him. Terrified, he collapses to the ground. Warren confronts Rayon. There's silence, and suddenly he bows and admits his mistake. He says he accepts defeat, but that doesn't mean he's given up. He'll face him again. All the stunts remain. Rayon is amazed that a 13-year-old can recognize his mistake. This is the true Seacard spirit. There's no respect at night, only rage. He shouts, "Blow that insolent kid's head off." Just then, Lemire arrives. He congratulates the kids on becoming formal trainees and tells them that proper training will begin now.
There will be some additions to the basics. Just then, a door slams open and a strange girl enters the field. She swears beyond her years because the door wouldn't open. Dorian is frightened because he recognizes her. Lamar reveals that she's a failed trainee from the previous batch, named Marta Sagart. She has a very rugged appearance and refuses to let Lamar introduce herself. Her primary agenda is to challenge the top seed from the previous batch, as she won't tolerate a weakling. Ryan appears. She sees him and says he doesn't look like a winner, but she doesn't care. Warren calls out from behind and asks why she's behaving so disgracefully. Marta turns back and threatens her. "Watch your mouth or you'll die." Warren gently tells her that if she's challenging Ryan's win, she should remember that the result was approved by the chief instructor and Lord Sagart. She replies that she also heard Warren had a tantrum, so let him have his way. Warren publicly declares that he won't repeat his pathetic actions. Hearing this, everyone believes he's changed. Runan then intervenes and tells Marta to leave. Marta says it looks like a loser's family reunion, so she lets them go. But it was a distraction. She suddenly launches a sneak attack on Ryan, but Ryan easily blocks and dodges. In response, Ryan throws a killer punch, which Marta blocks, but the impact throws him back. Satisfaction appears on Lamar's face and shock on Marta's. She charges again in anger, but Lamar stops her with a single blow. Lamar laughs and says, "I'm not good at ignoring you. I have feelings too." He explains that unlike Runan and Warren, Ryan hasn't even learned to use aura yet, so they'll fight later. Marta is forced to agree. Rot overreacts, asking, "Why did you leave him? Beat him and lock him in ice." Ryan calmly replies, "Violence isn't necessary right now. When he has what I want, I'll put the top trainee's title at stake. Patience is the key." Training then begins with stances, and the students get a 10-minute break.
Warren, who is focusing on the basics, understands that it's not that easy. He's already learned the second form, which wasn't difficult, but the third form is more involved, and he's having trouble. Ryan, on the other hand, learned all 7 forms in a month, while it took Warren a full month to learn the first 7. He's worried that they'll be together in the swordsmanship classes. Warren isn't the only one feeling the pressure. He asks Marta, who is struggling herself, how she's coping. Marta curses, maddened by the thought that Rain is learning the fish technique for the first time, and yet mastering it so quickly. Unlike Warren and Runan, Rain had no prior training, and worse, he still has the curse of frost within him. Yet he can train all day long. This realization fills Marta with rejoicing. She reminds herself that she's never been behind. From the day she was adopted into House Sigard, she's been a predator. She never took the prodigies of the main and branch families seriously, laughing at their disapproving faces, because she was the real prodigy. Now, for the first time, she feels nervous, and she hates it. At the end of the day, a worker compliments her, but she ignores it. The worker stops her and says that no matter how much Rain achieves, he'll never be able to beat her. Not now, not ever. Marta asks for an explanation, and he reminds her of Ryan's critical weakness, a weakness that can never be overcome. Meanwhile, Ryan is busy practicing swords, and some boys ask him questions about sword stances. Ryan gives a demonstration, and they are amazed by his technique. From a distance, Marta sarcastically compliments him on how quickly he's reached her swordsmanship class, and might even be called a prodigy. But subtly, she also says that Ryan's mana sensitivity is so poor that all his sword talent will be wasted because he can't use mana. She jokes that perhaps he could become an instructor in the future. Best case scenario, the entire hall falls silent, exactly the reaction Marta wanted. Her intention was to remind them that even after 4 months, Ryan hasn't learned aura. Backstage, Butler had told her that Rain's aura talent was very poor, and that his potential was absurdly low at the first discernment ceremony. Now he's the only one unable to use aura at the 5th training grounds. Butler speculates that even the cultivation techniques obtained with the bronze medallion are mid or upper level and relatively strong. If Rain can't master even that, his mana talent is at the lowest rank. Marta is delighted to hear this, as it means that the sod and fish techniques will never make him a proper warrior.
The truth is, it still bothers her that a failure countered her attack. While she's rejoicing over her words, she sees Runan glaring at her. When asked, Runan coldly forces her to leave the training hall. After training all day, Ryan decides to end the day. He enjoys learning martial arts because in his previous life, he learned techniques for survival and assassination. Now, learning real martial arts is fun. Rot is predictably furious that Rot didn't say anything when Marta humiliates him. But Rot pretends not to hear. He reminds Rot that fighting won't achieve anything right now. Suddenly, there's a knock, and upon opening the door, Runan stands there holding a box. Ryan is shocked to see her, and even more so when she opens the box and offers him a small brown confectionery. His assassin instincts stop him, but he doesn't doubt that Runan will harm him. He eats it and is stunned by the taste. Roth also says he's never seen such sweetness in the demon world. Both react like crazy, and Runan quietly explains that it's called ice cream. She leaves without turning around. Roth immediately asks for another, but Ryan wonders if she came worried about him. Runan is a sweet tooth herself, so she gave him her last orb of ice cream. The thought brings a slight smile to his face, and he decides he must repay her somehow. Ryan returns home, and Sylvia reacts to him as if he's returned after months, even though he was only training for a week. He reads Judiel's monthly report and asks if she received any intel from the Palace of Warriors. Judiel explains that she was ordered to monitor Ryan's rapid martial growth, but his aura failure has dampened her interest. Karun has also lost interest in Sylvia. Curious, Judiel asks if Ryan is deliberately avoiding learning aura. Ryan throws the question back at her, making her understand that it's not his place to ask. The truth, which Rot proudly reveals, is that Ryan is failing miserably at learning aura, and Rot mocks it by calling it pathetic. Ryan quietly goes off to train, and Rot teases him by calling him a monster. As he emerges, he sees Lamar playing with birds. Ryan asks what he's doing in his backyard. Lamar replies, "I've come to give you specialized training on the elements." The next morning, Lamar takes Ryan to the mountain. Ryan protests that they were supposed to learn the elements. This place is useless. Lamar tells him to trust him. He recalls that when he inspected Ryan's cultivation technique, his aura was like lava and on a different plane from other techniques. She wasn't erasing the chill, but rather coasting it with fire. If Ryan understood this, it would be extraordinary. They arrive at a place that Ryan perceives as the middle of a forest. Lar releases a blending spiritual force, and a razor-sharp wind is created. Lar explains that there are many types of wind, warm, cold, and sharp, and he chose the wind that can got through anything. Now it's Ryan's turn. He has to think about what kind of fire he wants, because his mana is the flame throne. Finally, Lamar takes him to a place he believes is perfect for it. They arrive at the home of an elderly blacksmith who jokingly taunts Lar. This is where the hottest and most sincere fire in the north burns.
The elder asks who he's brought. Lugh says Lord Sagard's grandson. The elder remains unimpressed. Ryan is mesmerized by the sight of the furnace fire. It's the same flame he's known all his life. In his past lives, he's seen many forms of fire, but the heat and intensity of this kiln is exactly the image he's been searching for. The old man says in a rough tone his name is Vulcan. From Ryan's past knowledge, Vulcan is the continent's master blacksmith, whose name resonates throughout the world. Legend has it that he forged Glen Sagard's legendary sword, Heaven's Renown. Our boy bows and introduces himself, expressing his respect for meeting the great Vulcan. Seeing his modesty, Vulcan wonders if Lugh mentioned anything about it. Lugh denies it and explains that Vulcan is Sagard's retired master blacksmith, who's been feeding the flames for the past decade. This is the only place where Ryan can truly feel the fire. When Lugh requests permission, Vulcan suggests they visit the workshop, but Lugh protests as it would be dangerous for Ryan to demonstrate his cultivation techniques to others until he masters them. Vulcan asks why, and the answer is that Ryan is Sylvia's child. Upon hearing this, Vulcan's focus suddenly sharpens. Ryan solemnly swears that he will not interfere with his work and asks for a chance to feel the fire. After a moment of silence, Vulcan explains that he's been making golden coal, which produces heat many times more powerful than white or black coal, and that's why he's been there for a decade. Vulcan grants permission, but on one condition: he doesn't interfere with his work. As they leave, Lugh expresses surprise that Vulcan agreed so easily. When Lugh tempts him with high-quality liquor, Vulcan clearly states that he didn't do Ryan this favor. When the child enters, the kiln's flames suddenly become very hot, and the heat increases so intensely that the coal could be damaged.
This is because the child's breath also possesses the power to ignite the fire, and Vulcan thinks that perhaps he can fulfill his lifelong dream. For the next 7 months, Ryan regularly visits Vulcan's kiln and meditates on the image of the flames until he understands what kind of fire he wants. People say that fire is the most powerful and fearsome element, but the day it is controlled, it becomes the most stable. Yet Ryan still hasn't awakened the energy of the Golden Flame's art. He remembers Lammer's words, "Imagine the fire you seek." Contemplating the goal of killing Daris and returning Sylvia to the main family, he realizes he needs a flame that will illuminate his path and never be extinguished. Suddenly, a bright flame erupts before him, its energy seeping into his body. Ryan increases his concentration and attempts to capture the flame. Just then, wrath penetrates his mind, reminding him that this was his plan all along. Seizing his body at Ryan's most vulnerable moment, Ryan begins to freeze. The passage of time had made him forget the true nature of this demon. A shattering pain spreads through his body. He will die if he advances. He will die if he stops his cultivation. Now he has only one option: manifest his aura, or he will perish. The atmosphere is terrifying, and night continues to taunt him, insisting that his efforts are futile. His consciousness begins to fade, and Night declares that his body and soul are now the property of the demon world. Then Night mentions Cole and Keelan and gives Ryan a final warning. Ryan understands that he must absorb not nature's mana, but Keelan's heat. The hotter the mana, the more diverging, the more diverting. As he does so, Keelan crackles and explodes. Vulcan is stunned. He's never experienced such heat. He sees that Ryan is shivering, even though there shouldn't be a trace of cold in such heat. Frost is frozen over his body, as if some impossible forces are colliding. Vulcan thinks to touch him, but Lammer arrives with lightning speed and stops him. Vulcan protests. He will die. Lammer replies, if you touch him, he will immediately bleed to death. He's in a trance, and we can't do anything. The two stand helplessly, watching. In the trance, Night Rage cries out that this is hopeless. Ryan refuses. His past life was spent in darkness, deception, and fear. This time, his belief is simple. He's not going to die until he's made his own way. The heat intensifies, and it seems Lalan can't bear it. All the mana begins to gather in one place. Lammer feels it. Ryan is absorbing all the mana. Finally, the tug-of-war ends. Ryan grabs the flame, and instantly a blast of fire blows the roof off. Dust settles after the explosion. Both men call out his name in worry. There's no response. Then, Ryan emerges from the flames, unharmed. Golden flames dance on his back, flames like they've never seen before. The system screen pops up. Ryan has acquired the Golden Flame art. He gains 2 stars from the start, as well as fire resistance. 2 strands of Curse of Bitter Frost melt, and his terrible stamina vanishes. Furthermore, he has absorbed the Chill of Night, and gained a new attribute, Chill of Bitter Frost, 2 stars. Night interference has actually become a blessing. The system also reveals that all the stats have turned +3, due to the intense mental fortress. Ryan is shocked. What would have happened years ago has happened today. Wrath is furious, and demands to know how he survived. Ryan replies with a smug expression, I told you before, you can't defeat me. The truth is, he almost died. Today's incident proved that no matter how friendly Wrath appears, he's an enemy, and now Wrath will never reveal his weaknesses to him.
Seeing Vulcan's condition, Vulcan breathes a sigh of relief. When he asks, "Did you Kate Aura?" Rayan says, "Yes, and it's all because of you that the furnace exploded." Rayan apologizes, but Vulcan says, "It's okay, you're alive, and that's enough." Just then, Vulcan sees something strange in the flames. He takes out coal from the shovel and freezes in shock. It's golden coal, the same coal he spent his life building. People mocked him in the past, saying that creating mythical coal was crazy. From that very furnace emerged the myth. Golden coal is hotter than white coal and more tenacious than black coal, and this is its miracle.